Yes, welcome. Press conference for the Scotland game. As you can see, it's an unchanged team, and reliably informed, it's the first time I've done that, which I was unaware of, to be honest. But anyway, it is. Johnny May's recovered from his broken nose, so he's going to be fine. It was more a concern about whether it had gone into his eye socket, but that's been cleared. So he's good. And obviously, from my point of view, we want to allow the team to build on the performance that they put in on Saturday and use the defeat as the motivation going into this Scotland game.
As you say, Stuart, unchanged side for the first time ever for you. Is this a real vote of confidence in the side despite that loss in Paris? Yeah,
I think so. I think it's a second chance, for the team. I think having reviewed the game and reflected on all the ups and downs of the game as you went, there were a lot more ups and downs. It was a really positive performance in lots of ways, and I think you've got to trust the players and give them another opportunity to get the win this time.
What about Murrayfield? In the last 10 years, someone's worked out that it's been the toughest place for try scoring for England, just one in all those years. Why is it so difficult to score there?
I think the competitive nature of the Scottish team and their ability to raise their levels of performance. A good example probably would be the autumn when Australia went there in fine form and won 21-15. We know how difficult it's going to be. The weather's challenging at the moment. Hopefully it's going to be dry on the day, but we want to go and approach the game though with the same intent and intensity that we brought into the France game, and hopefully that will do the trick. But we know it's going to be a tough challenge.
What were your memories of 2 years ago? That was your first game in charge, so it's bound to be right up there in your thoughts. So what were the lessons learned about Scotland that day?
Bit of a blur, really, to be honest. It was 2 years ago, and it was a Charlie Hudson try, wasn't it? That got the win. We just fought tooth and nail to try and get that win, and I don't think there was much finesse in our performance. But it was a team that had been brought together about a week before, and the context was 15 new players coming into a new team, a new coaching team, a new culture, new environment, 7 new caps. And whilst we've probably not moved on in terms of caps and experience, we've still got a reasonably inexperienced team. We're a lot more cohesive, and those 2 years have been great for us in terms of developing our game.
Can I ask you about Sam Burgess? It's a story that seems to be growing legs, and the reports today that the RFU are behind overtures, perhaps to bring him over to the 15-man game. What do you know about that, and do you know where he could possibly play if he were to come over? What position?
Well, it's all a bit hypothetical at the moment, Phil, and also speculation as far as I'm aware. Certainly from my point of view. I mentioned last week when I asked about it. The RFU haven't made any approaches to the Rabbitohs, and it's really an issue for Sam. If Sam wanted to come to Rugby Union, obviously he's under contract and he's going to need to persuade, his club to release him, and another club's going to have to sign him. We don't centrally contract players, so it would have to be an arrangement between an English club and
Bath, perhaps.
Again, I see the speculation, but at the moment, I've got nothing more to add on it, really.
What about the start this time? 3 games recently, England have shipped more than a dozen points in the first 20 minutes. And a good start's important because you'll be playing catch-up again, do you, Stuart?
Absolutely, no. Part of the challenge from the weekend was, that 16-3 deficit. It was similar to the New Zealand game. 17-3 down. So, we've made a big point of that, the focus area in the start of the game, to give us a good foothold to build on. So, it is important, and, we've talked about it and done some work on it, but equally, the players know the game lasts for 80 minutes as well, and we've got to make sure we deliver not only the start, but the middle and the end as well.
One more for me, if I can. How would you cope if you had a brilliant maverick like KP, Kevin Peterson in your side, Stuart? Would you welcome that? How would you manage something like that?
There is a lot of hypothetical questions today, Phil. There's loads of brilliant maverick players in my team, and I think I can't comment other sports or other situations when I don't know the full facts of the story. But I think you know my views on culture and performance. You know, you get your culture right, and performance follows. Because if you have it the other way around, then often pressure can lead to problems. But you know, England have been, from a cricket point of view, extremely successful for the last 3, 4, 5 years. So they must have got something right along the way. That's my view.
Stuart, 2 years ago that Phil mentioned, I think there's just 4 starters in Owen Farrell, Chris Robinson, Dylan Hartley and Dan Cole from that day to now. How crucial that they impart their experience to the others can tap in to go to Murrayfield of all places?
No, it will be. It will be important. You know, it was, for a lot of our young players, you know, going away to these grounds, it is a unique experience. You know, France last week, even though we had a reasonably experienced pack for ourselves, I think there were 5 going there for the first time, so it's not dissimilar. And certainly the lessons that we learnt 2 years ago about the challenges of the environment and the crowd and the Murrayfield factor are definitely important factors we've talked about already. And I'm sure those senior players will pass on those messages as we get up there. And you only really get a sense of it when you actually end up in Edinburgh, as we all do this afternoon, and you start walking the streets and you realise quite what a big game it's going to be.
And from the Scotland point of view, their team obviously named in a couple of hours' time. What did you make of them, particularly against Ireland? A strong 35 minutes, maybe?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure they'll be disappointed with the final score. But overall, they showed great attacking intent. Ireland obviously took their chances well, as you need to do at international level. But I don't think the margins of the two teams were reflected in the scoreline, to be honest. And I know last year, you know, after the first game, we beat Scotland quite comfortably, and then there was an immediate reaction, and they put in their best performance of the season, beating Italy 34-10, I think, which we struggled to do towards the end of the season. So there's bound to be a reaction, and you know, we obviously look at the Ireland game, but we prepare for a different team this week.
Just finally, you mentioned Johnny May obviously recovering from that broken nose. How important to have a full game, or most of it, where everybody is in their key position that you trained with and intended in the back line? Yeah,
I mean, that disruption early on, you know, wasn't ideal by any stretch of imagination. Having the flexibility to put Mike Brown on the wing and Alex Good to 15, you know, was a help, obviously. But you know, it was just mainly disappointing for Johnny. You know, just that he was so alive and he had so much belief going into the game, to not allow him to show his potential in the game. And actually, when you look back at the game, it was a game actually would have suited his talent. But he's been great this week. He's trained all week, and pleased he's ready to go.
Stuart, you want your teams to go out and play. You got them doing that against France last week, but considering the conditions, that potentially, you know, there's talk about the pitch not being up to scratch on Saturday. Are you confident that these players can find another way to play if they're going to need it against Scotland? Yeah, I do. But equally, you know, I still think you want to bring an intensity and intent to your game as well. You know, I mean, we'll judge the weather on the day and at the time of the kickoff, and the pitch and everything else that goes with it. So, you know, we'll have a chance to train on it tomorrow, so we'll have a good idea what it's going to be like. And we've got to make sure we bring our game. But you're right, you know, to win at international level, South Africa beat Scotland by some driving lineouts, so that's going to be part of the game. The scrum, defence, it's the all-court game, really. And just one more from me. In the autumn, we had problems with the team finding an 80-minute game. Perhaps didn't find it against France last week. Do you think they're still searching for that?
I think it's what all teams search for, isn't it? You know, show me a game. Show me a game where a team's been completely dominant from the first minute to the 80th minute. I don't think international rugby it happens. You know, there's going to be ebbs and flows in the game. It's dealing with those and coming out on top at the end that's key.
One more hypothetical one for you, Stuart.
Are we allowed 3 in one press conference?
Yeah, whether it's Sam Burgess or not, in your mind, given everything you've spoken about previously about culture and environment and bringing people in and letting them settle and get to know it, is it possible for somebody from here on in or soon to here on in to join your camp and be part of the World Cup with this short time span now?
Be a challenge. Big time, because the, as you say, the nature of learning the sport and everything else that goes with it. But you know, for me, there's a bigger